Imagine a tech billionaire who aims to fix the government itself. He's the founder of 3 multi-billion-dollar companies, Palantir, Adipar, and OpenGov, and he now leads 8VC. He's driven by more than just wealth. He wants to make a real impact.
And I want to have gone after and solved hundreds of problems of things that were broken in our society and lifted up millions of lives.
He's making notable progress, and here's how he talks about some of his accomplishments.
Palantir, I think now it's trading as a 50-something billion dollar company. It's doing very, very well as I'd expect with the amazing team and leaders, and my friend's still in charge there. You know, Adipar, despite what some of the trolls online were saying, has had a record couple of years. It's doing amazingly well. I think it's going to be one of the biggest fintech companies. I'd be very disappointed if it's not like a 20-30 billion dollar company at the end of the decade. It's just really making great strides. So OpenGov is obviously a unicorn. I created this, impacting thousands of governments, and more recently started Epirus, which is probably the most important EMP defense company in the world. It's valued as a unicorn, should be a really big company. Resilience Bio, I started with Bob Nelson and my team. It's valued at $8 or $9 billion.
Lonsdale is one of Peter Thiel's most successful pupils. He was one of the early Trump supporters in Silicon Valley. He's a vocal critic of China and generally unafraid to shake things up.
I'm sick and tired of this incompetence in government, right? We spend $7 billion, get a handful of chargers. We have $42 billion at the FCC for broadband. They can't get anything done. Of course, they could easily connect all these things with SpaceX, but they cancel the contract they're going to do with Starlink because they don't like Elon.
He takes matters into his own hands. From organizing charter flights to rescue U.S. allies in Afghanistan to launching a new university to change the education system, Lonsdale is on a relentless mission to reshape society, and he's optimistic about the future.
I think we're living in the best time we've ever lived in as a species. And even though there's huge challenges, there's also just great solutions to everything we're facing, and I think we can figure them out.
This is the fascinating story of how Joe Lonsdale is changing the game in entrepreneurship and governance. Joe Lonsdale's early career is truly fascinating, especially because he worked closely with the legendary entrepreneur and investor Peter Thiel. He started out as a young guy fresh out of college, diving into the fast-paced world of Silicon Valley at PayPal.
Being allowed in at PayPal was a really big deal. I think Max rejected me the first time as a freshman. We had an argument on a whiteboard, and I thought he was going to bring me in anyway. I don't think he remembers this. This is Peter's co-founder of Confinity at the time. So being at PayPal and learning from people there was really important. Peter taking me to work for him directly afterwards. And, I got exposed, of course, at that point to like the Facebook people and to the Kevin Hart's at Zoom and all these guys.
At PayPal, Joe got to see the rise of one of the most disruptive companies in finance. Working with Peter Thiel, he picked up valuable lessons about entrepreneurship and innovation. Thiel was great at spotting untapped potential. His drive to change the financial world had a big impact on Joe. This wasn't just a job. It was like a masterclass in startup success. But Joe didn't stop at PayPal. After it grew and got bought by eBay, he joined Thiel at his macro fund. This was a different ballgame, a high-stakes setting where they traded in the financial markets with skill and boldness. Joe remembers the excitement of crunching numbers and making huge bets.
And the market's open at 6:30, so the traders are supposed to be in at 6:30, except the first Friday of every month, you got to come in at 5:30 because the non-farm payrolls come out still now, the first Friday of every month at 8:30 a.m. on the East Coast. And it turns out this is a very important number because it shows you what's going on in job growth in the whole economy, based on the Bureau of Labor Statistics numbers. And what was really cool is Kevin Harrington was our head of research, this like genius, crazy physics, biology, interesting guy and he ended up being on the National Security Council later, like super interesting, smart guy. And he had mapped out this thing I'd helped him with where we realized that they were adjusting the numbers wrong based on seasonal adjustments. And so we were able to predict whether the number would hit or miss. And this thing would move bond markets like crazy, like hundreds of billions of dollars and move around based on this number. And we figured out they're systematically misdoing it. And this is totally legal. You're allowed to do this in finance. So we figured, okay, this is a mistake. 75% of the time we can make money trading this, and then we can adjust it and make it even better based on where the market was positioned. So if the market's going to be surprised, and we can kind of tell there's a good chance it might be, we take a big position
Right.
like the night before or whatever, and then like make a ton of money that morning when it worked. And it was
At 4:30 in the morning.
it's like with about 75% chance. And so if you do it enough, you're going to do it well over time. And it was the most fun thing because we take these like giant positions on this thing, and you'd be there with like Peter and Kevin.
Is this just like the high stakes game of poker you've ever played?
It's the most fun game of poker, and you're like literally personally have like a few $1 million riding on it at a time as early in my 20s.
Joe's time with Peter Thiel, both at PayPal and the Macro Fund, was a game changer for him. He learned to think big, take smart risks, and focus on what really matters. Joe Lonsdale's entrepreneurial spirit took a new turn with the founding of Palantir, a company aimed at changing how intelligence and defense agencies handle data. The idea for Palantir sparked during Joe's time at PayPal, where he and his team tackled cyber fraud with innovative solutions. He realized that if these advanced techniques worked for PayPal, why not apply them to national security?
As I got to know all these guys at PayPal, they're in the Secret Service and FBI. Those are the two groups that are in charge of anti-fraud, of like arresting the mafia guys. And these guys would come to us and ask us for advice on other things because it was like, it's kind of fun. It's cops and robbers. Like I don't know if every young man likes this, but it's IntelliWorld. Of course, you want to help kids and bad guys. So we were teaching them about cyber fraud or whatever you call it, internet fraud in 2000, 2001. And they start coming to us. And then 9/11 happened. And then the government started spending billions of dollars on like supposed solutions to catching bad guys, watch what's going on. And we knew these guys and we watched what they were spending money on. And we were like, oh my God, this is stupid.
Along with his Stanford roommate, Stefan, Joe began sketching out ideas and building prototypes. When Palantir first launched, many thought Joe was making a mistake by going into defense.
We were seen as kind of crazy to start doing defense again in 2015, 2016. We were seen as crazy. We're trying to raise money for Palantir going around Sand Hill Road. It's basically like, why aren't you guys doing Web 2.0? You're taking talent away from these Web 2.0 companies. What's wrong with you guys? And it was a kind of a culture shock to see Palantir on the cover of Time magazine last month. Maybe I guess because of Ukraine or something, people finally appreciate some of this.
Building Palantir wasn't just about creating another tech startup. It was about building a strong engineering culture. Joe and his co-founders knew they needed the best talent to solve tough problems. They attracted top math and chess champions, leading PhDs, and other brilliant engineers by offering more than just a job. They promised a mission to save lives and protect civil liberties by changing how data is managed in national security. Joe's pitch to potential team members was compelling. The government was lagging in tech, and there was a big chance to help bridge that gap. By working closely with intelligence and defense agencies, Palantir aimed to create a single platform that could address multiple data issues right out of the box, making these agencies much more effective.
There's a huge gap between what's possible in the defense world and what you're seeing in the defense world. You're not getting the top technologists in the defense world attacking these problems. And this is what you do as a venture capitalist. This is what you do as an entrepreneur. You look for gaps in the world. You look for things that are like really broken compared to what they could be.
One major challenge Palantir faced was selling their solution to the government. Without the established contracts, lobbyists, or long-standing relationships, Joe and his team had to rely on persistence and superior technology. They kept iterating and showing up until their product was clearly better than anything else out there. Joe remembers needing to shame the government into using their technology by being 10 times better than the competition.
And basically you have to shame the government into something's 10 times better. Like when you're trying to go into the government, we don't have the same contacts. We don't have the hundreds of lobbyists. We don't play golf with the right people. We haven't hung out with these guys for 30 years. It's very dangerous. It's very safe to buy IBM or Raytheon. So what do you have to do? You have to basically keep showing up. You have to keep iterating, and you have to be so good that it's just basically shameful not to work with you.
Joe Lonsdale's talent for solving complex problems led him to co-found Addepar, a company focused on changing the wealth management industry.
And I had this mission for a platform to fix a lot of parts of global finance. And Palantir's system was so valuable selling in other ways that it didn't make sense for Palantir to do that. So I started Addepar separately in order to accomplish that.
The financial industry was ripe for disruption. Thousands of investment advisors were struggling with inaccurate data from big custodians like Schwab and Fidelity. Joe saw a chance to bring clarity and efficiency to this mess.
Addepar is part of the Smart Enterprise wave where there's probably 300 platforms in different vertical industries that just need to go to the cloud, needed to use big data, needed to improve how things worked.
Addepar's mission was ambitious, to create a comprehensive platform for registered investment advisors to manage wealth, handle trusts and estates, and generate accurate reports. But the early years were challenging. Joe and his team faced issues with bad data, integration, and many other obstacles. Many would have given up, but not Joe. He believed in the problem they were tackling and was determined to see it through. Joe's persistence paid off. Addepar eventually became the leading wealth management technology company in the US. The complexity and scale of Addepar creates a significant barrier to entry. Joe jokes that anyone trying to copy Addepar would need $1 billion in 10 years to catch up.
But it's wealth management technology, but it runs infrastructure now for about 300 family offices and like 30 banks, and we're growing really fast. We have about $1.2 trillion in the platform, and it's infrastructure I'm really passionate about because I believe that by owning that infrastructure, we actually could make a lot of finance more fair and more data-driven.
Joe Lonsdale's career is more than just about building successful companies. It's about tackling some of society's most challenging and broken systems. From his work with Palantir and Addepar, Joe has developed a sharp eye for spotting inefficiencies, which he now focuses on through his venture capital firm 8VC in various policy initiatives.
There's all these things that are broken about the U.S.
Meth. It's
right.
Yeah.
No, it's
right.
drugs too.
Fentanyl, right?
And you talk about this a lot. So the question is, let's actually acknowledge these things, let's run towards them, and let's fix them. That's one of my passions right now.
Joe's firm concentrates on 5 key areas: government tech, fintech, logistics, healthcare IT, and biotech. These sectors are not only ready for innovation, but also crucial for making society better. 8VC digs deep into these fields, not just to create profitable businesses, but to develop solutions that have a real impact. Joe is optimistic and believes we're more equipped than ever to make a difference.
Well, every single one of the problems we face, I think there's really good solutions, and these solutions involve innovation and they involve greater consciousness. And I think there's ways we can make our society continue to get more competent. I think we're living in the best time we've ever lived in as a species. And even though there's huge challenges, there's also just great solutions to everything we're facing. And I think we can figure them out.
One of Joe's core beliefs is that improving government and finance systems can lead to broader benefits for society, including better healthcare and education. He points out that inefficient government processes waste billions of hours and dollars, making life harder, especially for those in need. His commitment to fixing what's broken extends to his work with the Cicero Institute, where he pushes for policy changes that tackle systemic issues. He has successfully advocated for numerous laws aimed at making government processes more efficient and transparent. Another major issue Joe focuses on is education. He recently launched a university to highlight the flaws in the current university system while offering a better alternative.
Barry Weiss and Neil Ferguson are my co-founders, and I for some reason agreed to be the chairman of the board of this new thing that we started together. And so our goal is to compete with Harvard, Stanford, Yale. We're recruiting our first class right now. We have amazing students who are turning down those schools. We're going to have 100 students in all. We had 5,000 professors apply when we announced this school. And the reason we had 5,000 professors apply, not partially because Barry and Neil are so amazing, much cooler than me.
Joe emphasizes that innovation and strategic thinking are crucial for maintaining global stability. He's involved in defense by supporting companies like Anduril, Epirus, and various AI-driven defense startups. These ventures focus on developing advanced technologies, from drone warfare to EMP capabilities, ensuring that the U.S. military remains strong. He stresses the importance of keeping America's defense capabilities ahead of rivals like China. Joe believes constant innovation is essential for maintaining peace. If China thinks it's ahead in defense, it might feel encouraged to act aggressively.
I think the best hope for peace in the world is for China to realize that we're still innovating and that they're not getting ahead of us in defense. If they think they're ahead of us in defense and can make a fool of us, they're going to be very tempted to do so.
Joe's focus on defense became clear around 2014 to 2015 as he recognized the growing threat from China under Xi Jinping's leadership. He describes Xi as a deeply problematic leader whose aggressive policies require a strong U.S. response.
I was pretty optimistic on China 15 years ago. I thought China was going the right direction. We were trying to do some things there. And unfortunately, it became really clear that this Xi Jinping guy is actually a communist. He's actually an insane murderer who's killed a lot of my friends and destroyed a lot of their tech sector. And he actually is someone who, these guys, his mom turned him in when he was a kid. These guys, he's seriously mentally ill. Like, we don't talk about this enough. And he basically, he's killed so many people. And he basically used to sing these poems in his youth with the Maoist youth, talking about hardening your heart against the destruction of America. Like this, you guys can say whatever you want about Biden and Trump. Like, this is a whole nother level of a problematic person.
China's leadership isn't an isolated issue. Joe emphasizes the lack of innovation from U.S. defense contractors. He criticizes these large companies for engaging in innovation theater, where they pretend to innovate without real accountability. In contrast, China is attracting a lot of talent with its investments in defense.
Hold on a second. These crazy guys are forcing their best and brightest into the PLA, into the army in China. They are building really advanced things that they're starting to compete with the U.S. And by the way, the U.S. defense primes suck. That became a very scary realization to us about 10 years ago. So we went hard into defense.
Joe advocates for bringing the best minds from Silicon Valley into defense to keep the U.S. technologically superior. It may sound futuristic, but one of Joe's main concerns about the future of warfare is the advancement of space weapons. He points out the dangers of low-cost, highly destructive space-based weaponry. The ability to deploy these weapons cheaply and effectively could dramatically change the balance of power. Controlling space and preventing adversaries from establishing a foothold there is a crucial strategic advantage.
I'm actually pretty scared about, I don't even know if I should talk about these things, but the space weapon stuff is really scary, where it's like you could send up things into outer space and send them down very cheaply that are much more powerful than cruise missiles. They can go Mach 15, just dropping a crowbar on you and you wouldn't see it coming, and it's very accurate. And you can send up a lot of these very cheaply now. And it's like, so there's all sorts of who controls outer space can stop another guy from getting to outer space, and then you win if you have enough up there that stops them from getting up there, and you drop them when they want. So you're at their mercy at that point.
Subscribe to House of Heroes to watch more inspiring stories that highlight the experiences of entrepreneurs, investors, and business leaders. Learn about growth, mental models, productivity, business models, investing, philanthropy, and technology. Tune in to House of Heroes and find your inspiration in the stories we tell.